Have you ever looked at the news and heard that nearly every country on earth is in debt? The United States owes over $38 trillion. The European Union, $14 trillion. Japan, nearly $9 trillion. Even nations swimming in oil or exporting everything under the sun, like Saudi Arabia, Germany, and China, owe staggering amounts. The total global debt has now hit $315 trillion. That's more than 3 times the entire world's economic output. It's a number so large it's almost meaningless. But it begs a simple, yet profound question. If everyone is in debt, who exactly is the creditor? If the whole world owes money, who did we borrow it from? Mars? The answer is both simpler and far more complex than you might imagine. The world doesn't owe anyone else. It owes itself. And this isn't just an accounting trick, it's the hidden architecture of our entire modern financial system. To understand how we got here, we need to travel back to 1694, to an England at war with France. The king was broke and desperate for cash to fund his army. So he turned to a group of wealthy merchants with a revolutionary proposal. Lend me money, and in return, I will pay you interest forever, guaranteed by all future taxes collected from the people. To manage this new arrangement, a new institution was created, the Bank of England. In that moment, the government bond was born. It was a simple IOU from the state, but it changed everything. Suddenly, debt wasn't a sign of weakness. It became a mark of credibility. A country that could reliably pay interest on its debts was seen as powerful and stable. France, the Netherlands, and later the newly formed United States quickly adopted this model. Debt became the engine of national ambition. Fast forward to today, and that system has gone global. Every country borrows, every major bank lends, and nearly everyone is both a debtor and a creditor at the same time. Let's take the United States as an example. Of its $38 trillion debt, about half is publicly held. And where is that held? Well, 2/3 of it is owned by Americans themselves, in the form of pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, and even the Federal Reserve. The remaining third, about $9 trillion, is owned by foreign investors. Japan holds over $1 trillion, China holds around $800 billion, followed by the UK and other nations. So, while America does owe money to other countries, the vast majority of its debt is actually owed to itself. This creates a fascinating circular flow of money. Here's how it works. The US Treasury needs to borrow, so it issues bonds. American banks and investment funds buy these bonds. Then the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, can step in and buy those bonds from the banks, effectively creating new dollars out of thin air to pay for them. Meanwhile, you and I pay our taxes. A portion of that tax money goes to pay the interest on those bonds. And where does that interest money go? Right back into the retirement and investment funds of American citizens. It's a closed loop. The debt is very real, but the ultimate creditor is a complex web of institutions and individuals who are all part of the same economic system. The money is just moving from one pocket to another. This pattern repeats itself all over the globe, creating an intricate dance of debt. Japan lends to the United States, the US lends to Europe, Europe lends to developing nations, and those developing nations, they often take their earnings and reinvest them right back into safe Western bonds, like US treasuries. It's like a planetary game of hot potato, but the potato is made of promises, IOUs passed from one hand to the next. The entire system is built on one critical ingredient: trust. It only works as long as everyone believes the music will never stop and the game will continue. So who really calls the shots in this world? You might think it's presidents and prime ministers, but behind every government stand the financial markets. The real power lies with the hedge funds, pension funds, central banks, and anonymous bondholders who decide on a daily basis who gets to borrow cheaply and who gets pushed toward collapse. Democracy may choose a country's leaders, but the market often decides which countries survive. And at the very heart of this system are the central banks. They are the ultimate debt makers. When a central bank buys a government bond, it isn't using pre-existing money. It creates new money for the transaction. This means that nearly every dollar, euro, or yen in existence today represents a unit of debt somewhere in the system. The idea of debt-free money in our modern world is essentially a fantasy. Money is created from debt. But what happens when the trust that holds this all together begins to crack? We've seen it happen. Think of Greece in 2010. Its debt became so large that investors panicked and refused to lend it more money. This triggered a crisis that led to massive bailouts from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the European Central Bank. But it came at a brutal cost, crippling austerity measures and mass unemployment. We've seen it in Argentina, which has defaulted on its debt repeatedly. We saw it in Sri Lanka, which ran out of foreign currency to pay for fuel and essentials, leading to a total societal collapse. In moments of crisis, the faceless creditors suddenly appear. The IMF, the credit rating agencies, and the bondholders who demand to be paid, no matter the human cost. Here's the most mind-bending secret of all. Governments have no intention of ever paying off their national debt. Not really. Instead, when old bonds come due, they simply issue new bonds to pay off the old ones. It's a process called refinancing, or rolling over the debt. The goal isn't to eliminate the principal, it's to keep paying the interest. The interest payment is the real product. It's the rent that governments pay for access to capital and for maintaining global financial stability. The system runs on confidence, not the promise of final repayment. This leads to the great paradox of our time. A U.S. Treasury bond, which is by definition a piece of American debt, is universally considered the safest financial asset in the world. It's the bedrock of global finance. If the United States were to magically pay off all $38 trillion of its debt tomorrow, the global financial system wouldn't celebrate. It would collapse. Why? Because the world's banks, pension funds, and central banks would lose their safest, most reliable asset. So governments must continue to borrow. They must keep the pulse of debt beating, rhythmically, predictably, but never stopping. In the end, debt has become the very heartbeat of capitalism. It's not a bug in the system, it's the central feature. The goal is not to eliminate it, but to manage it, to keep the delicate illusion of trust alive indefinitely. However, there's a hidden, darker side to this story. The phrase, "we owe it to ourselves," is a comforting simplification, but it masks a stark reality about inequality. When we say we, who are we really talking about? The interest on national debt is paid from taxes, which are collected from the broad population, from workers and small businesses. But where does that interest money flow? It flows upward to the individuals and institutions who own the bonds, the wealthy investors, the large banks, the international funds. So, as global debt rises, so does global inequality. The system is designed to reward those who own debt and, indirectly, penalize those who pay for it through their labor and taxes. So to answer our original question, who is the creditor? The creditor is us, but it's a fractured us. The creditor is a global network of banks, funds, and wealthy individuals, all connected in a system built on a self-sustaining promise. A promise that the debt will always be honored, even if it's never truly paid back. Debt is the invisible force shaping our world. A promise that, for now, holds everything together, but one that perhaps can't be kept forever. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into how our world really works. See you next time.